I'd like to start by saying that the beauty of life does not depend on how happy you are, but how happy others can be because of you. Mrs. Dara Beakey is the instructor of the Supply Chain Management program at Greenville High School. Through Supply Chain, her students participate in many service activities and also participate in Business Professionals of America. Mrs. Beakey resides in Greenville with her husband, and they have 3 kids together, Samantha, Aaron, and Sarah. We would like to welcome Mrs. Beakey here for receiving the Dark County Excellence in Teaching Award. Mrs. Beakey has had an incredibly positive impact on my life with her helpfulness and personability, while these traits have also made her a positive influence in our community. She has helped carry on the event A Night in Hollywood, which her students created. Through this event, she has touched the lives of many Special Olympians while also impacting her students' lives. Also, the amount of connections that Mrs. Beakey has can be used for many reasons for herself and also for her students. Mrs. Dara Beakey helped to begin and carry on the event A Night in Hollywood that has had a huge impact on the community. A Night in Hollywood is an event that was created in 2014 by 4 girls in Mrs. Beakey's Supply Chain Management program. The event has the purpose of showcasing the talents of Special Olympians, adults with disabilities, or any student with a disability. The origin of the event was to give Special Olympians another way to showcase their abilities that does not involve the track and field event in May. The performers for the evening can showcase any talent that they please, and they even get to walk a red carpet before they perform. The event also has a silent art auction with all of the artwork made by Special Olympians that also generates a significant amount of money for Special Olympics. In the 5-year duration of the event, Mrs. Beakey and her students have raised over $37,000 for Special Olympics. Mrs. Beakey has always had a soft spot for Special Olympics ever since beginning her time at Greenville. As many people would agree, seeing the smiles on their faces throughout the entire evening and just watching them enjoy themselves makes everyone around them happy. To build on to this, there was a woman named Elizabeth Brewer that was a performer at A Night in Hollywood. She always sang and danced. The energy that she brought to the event and everyone around her at all times was incredibly positive. This past year, Elizabeth came down with a disease that she was not going to be able to recover from. Even in her last days, she still had so much positivity. Mrs. Beakey went to visit Elizabeth the day before she passed away, and Elizabeth was so happy to see Mrs. Beakey. The impact that Mrs. Beakey had on Elizabeth was so great that you could not even put it into words. Touching the life of EB was a goal of Mrs. Beakey's, and she has not only touched the lives of Special Olympians, but also her students. Being a teacher, you are given a platform to impact the lives of young people. Mrs. Beakey has made that her entire teaching mission. Mrs. Beakey always has past students reach out to her for multiple things, whether it be a recommendation letter for school or a job, life advice, or even simply just to have a conversation about how things are going. Mrs. Beakey has always said that if you do not leave her classroom after your 2 or 3 years with her knowing how to handle real-life situations, then she has not done her job well enough. She wants her students to have the guts and conversation skills to do things that people may not have the courage to do. She frequently has her students go out in public and do various things interacting with our community. By doing this, she has made her students and herself a familiar face in the community. Last year, a student that graduated from Mrs. Beakey's class was applying for a job with the city of Greenville. Needing a letter of recommendation, he quickly hit up Mrs. Beakey for this. She had it done and sent to him by the end of the day. Mrs. Beakey gets things done when they need to be done. Lastly, Mrs. Beakey has an incredible amount of connections to help different people in different ways. Mrs. Beakey is involved in many different things that give her the connections to make her students successful in the future. This also comes with being a teacher, making a ton of connections in the process to plenty of future job sites. Mrs. Beakey also has her students participate in several civic activities that make connections. The personality that Mrs. Beakey has makes her very easy to talk to and get along with. She's very generous and willing to listen, but also keeps things very realistic. One of the best traits that she has is her realism. She wants her students to have realistic goals and puts that into their heads. One big connection that Mrs. Beakey has is her father-in-law, Mr. Jim Beakey, who is a former Ohio House representative. This connection is very personal for me because he is my neighbor and has followed my basketball career very closely, and I have had many conversations with him. This connection can prove to be important in my future as I can use him as a conversation point, and him or Mrs. Beakey could help me get a job in the future if I needed them to. In conclusion, Mrs. Beakey is an impactful person in our community in many ways. As mentioned, she helped begin the event A Night in Hollywood, which benefits Special Olympics by raising over $37,000 in the last 5 years. By doing this, she has impacted the lives of Special Olympians and also her students. Impacting the lives of her students gives her students access to using her as a source for letters of recommendation and other things for a job in the future. Mrs. Beakey also has an insane amount of connections that she uses for a variety of reasons. Mrs. Beakey has been my teacher for 3 years, and she has impacted my life and connected me to many people. I firsthand witnessed her making a positive impact on our community, and I believe that she has done so many positive things for the city of Greenville, particularly Darke County Special Olympians. And once again, I'd just like to say, in regards to Mrs. Beakey, because she definitely applies to this quote, "The beauty of life does not depend on how happy you are, but how happy others can be because of you." Thank you.